The Committee on Military, Veterans, and Homeland Security will come to order. Mr. Clerk, will you please call the roll to establish a quorum?
Chair Conley.
Present.
Representative Carter.
Here.
Shannon.
Present.
Rogers.
Here.
Morgan.
Present.
Rogella.
Here.
Markinen.
Here.
Zat.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
St. Germain.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have 10 members present on the floor.
Today, I'm proposing an additional committee rule regarding testimony to clarify our procedures. You each have a copy of the proposed rule at your seat. Rep. Carter moves to adopt the committee rule. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chair Conley.
Yes.
Representative Carter.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Morgan.
Yes.
Rogella.
Yes.
Markinen.
Yes.
Zat.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
St. Germain.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 10 yeas, 0 nays, 0 passed. Motion carries.
Thank you. The committee rule is adopted. Representative Wigella moves to adopt the minutes from the February 6, 2024 meeting. Seeing no objections, the minutes are approved. Thank you. On the agenda, we'll be hearing testimony on Rep. Snyder's House Bill 5433. Representative, you are welcome to come to the table and provide your testimony when you are ready.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chair Conlon and members of the committee for taking up House Bill 5433 for testimony today. I am honored to be joined by my friend and colleague, Senator Sam Singh, who has sponsored the Senate version of this bill. Simply stated, House Bill 5433 ensures that members of the Michigan National Guard have access to health care and dental coverage. Currently, 22% of Michigan National Guard members lack access to health and dental coverage. That equates to about 2,200 guardsmen and women. Closing this gap to ensure all Guard members have access to these critical benefits would both help alleviate a financial burden on Guardsmen while also increasing Michigan National Guard personal strength and readiness levels. Fortunately, we can accomplish this with only minor investment. Factoring that all full-time Michigan National Guard members already have Tricare coverage and most other Guardsmen have private employer-based insurance, the annual cost of covering just the 22% of Guardsmen who lack insurance comes in at approximately between $1.6 and $2 million. A large population of Michigan National Guard members work in seasonal and trade-related industries as independent contractors that earn too high of an income to be eligible for government-supported health care programs, yet not enough to be able to afford the monthly premiums in the marketplace. Michigan National Guard members are provided Tricare, health care, and dental coverage if they are full-time employees or while serving in active duty. However, reservists are not provided with those same benefits. The Department of Military and Veterans Affairs has experienced more frequently in recent years that Guardsmen who do not have health coverage are delaying medical care and procedures until they are called for active duty, when Tricare coverage then kicks in. Some troops called into service are delayed from deployment until after recovering from necessary medical procedures to get them battle ready, further exacerbating personal strength when required to support national defense strategy or respond to state emergencies. Simple and affordable policy solutions such as this bill are not only good for our troops, but for how it also makes our state and country more secure. Before turning it over, we've got some folks from the department, but I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Senator Singh.
Thank you very much, Representative, Madam Chair, and members of the committee. Thank you for taking up this House bill. It's a very important bill for us to be having a conversation, especially as the budget is in front of us today. Rep. Snyder has already talked to you about all the benefits here, and I would just want to reiterate this need that is very specific in this small group of about 20 to 22% of the Guards people who don't have their own insurance and that are waiting oftentimes to get procedures done once they are back under the full insurance, once they're pulled up from reservist status to active duty. And so what we've seen in that, and I know that our colleagues who are going to come forward to speak on this, they have said this has really impacted retention They do believe if this is a benefit that is offered, that they will see a better retention rate of reservists. They also think it's a positive for recruitment as we go out in recruitment, and I think we've often seen some of the numbers of those serving in the reserves are at a lower number than what we would like, and so this is an opportunity to be able to help with recruitment. And then the third piece, as the representative has noted, is that now we're talking about troop readiness, that people aren't waiting to get medical procedures done. They're getting them done on a timely basis when they're not being called up in active duty, and then they're able to be battle ready if necessary, or emergency ready if necessary. And so right now, Maryland is the first state to have done this, and this is what we've modeled this legislation around. We'd love for us to be the second state. I know our colleagues in Minnesota are looking at this as well, and so maybe we'll end up being third if they beat us to it. But I do think that this, for the amount of resources and for the work that these members do for our state and for our nation, I think it's a very positive investment for us to move forward on. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. We could do questions now, or we could, next up we have here testimony from the Michigan Department of Military and Veterans Affairs. Who would like to go next?
I think we got General Wog to go next.
Perfect.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, Madam Chair, distinguished members of the committee. I also want to thank Representative Snyder, Senator Singh, for sponsoring the bill. My name is Brigadier General Ravi Wag. I am the Assistant to the Adjutant General, Army, in the department on behalf of General Paul Rogers. I want to just make clear I'm speaking on behalf of the Army and the Air Guard today, as this impacts both Army Guard soldiers and Air National Guard members. And I'm joined by Lieutenant Colonel Karen Sims, who is really a subject matter expert. She is in charge of the medical detachment in Detroit. So I think from a civilian analog perspective, medical administrator really understands medical readiness at the individual soldier and airman level and why this is so important. Really appreciate what you've done to enable our readiness. I would just say the recruiting, retention, and readiness, 3 R's, if you will, incredibly critical to where we are in the current context and space, both competing with other services, other states in this case, and as we get after both federal and state missions consistent with what we do here in the Michigan Guard. So I will stop there and stand by for any questions that I can answer. Thanks again.
Thank you very much for your testimony, and thanks for bringing this very important legislation to us, because I know recruitment and retention of our National Guardsmen is key, and that I've talked to General Paul Rogers about that, so this is another wonderful tool to help with that. Do we have any questions? Rep. Shannon.
Thank you for joining us today. Really quick question. What's the difference between a National Guard member and a reservist?
Thank you, sir, for that question. It's a great question, and I think that as we talked through the legislative effort, terms of reference and business rules. So Title 32 United States Code governs the National Guard. There is a state component and a federal component. Of course, we are at the disposal of the state government through the executive in a state emergency and used in that context. Title 10 governs active duty and United States Army reservists and air reservists in this context as well. Different set of rules, federally administered, federally funded, much different in terms of authorities, what they can and can't do in a contingency, in a crisis here in the state, for example. And I think that's important language as we really discuss this bill focused on Title 32 National Guard soldiers. And I would also say that, the reserve and the federal side, part of the competition in this recruiting and retention space, and we're in this case competing with Compo 1, the active duty, Compo 3, U.S. Army Reserve, and the same on the air side. This is a incentive that in many cases they're already offering on the federal side. A different scale. So This gives us a competitive advantage on the recruiting side for sure, and as we start talking readiness, I can give you some details on what that means in terms of collectively. So I hope that answered the question, sir, but it's a good context in terms of federal versus state authorities.
Thank you. Rep. Morgan?
Thank you, Chair. I had not indicated I had a question, but I did have one. So you read my mind. So thank you. I was curious. I just want to make sure I understood. So right now, this would allow, if we were to pass these bills or this bill, we would allow folks to pay the premium and then continue to have health insurance. Is that correct, or is that what we would be doing, paying for that premium?
Sir, thanks for that question. So the concept, and we referenced the Maryland bill, which is started through, I would say, in terms of basic mechanics and how we run it. So the short answer to the question is, the soldier or airman would pay the stipend monthly, call it $64 and some change, for full Tricare Reserve Select coverage, which would be both medical and dental. We would manage this process through the state budget office, through the department, DMVA, at the unit level. So I would say echelons of control and risk management. Echelons of control and risk management meaning we understand eligibility requirements monthly. We understand who's enrolled. We would have visibility of this. Soldier or airman would pay for that $64 initially out of pocket, and then be reimbursed once we confirm the trust but verify process. As we work through the mechanics, it will be a monthly stipend back to the soldier to cover the cost of the Tricare Reserve Select.
If I may just clarify, okay, so it's not that reservists can't access health insurance right now, it's that we pay that premium.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and so there is access, but it would be paid out of pocket. So
Gotcha.
again, a difference Representative Snyder mentioned. So an active Guard reservist, Lieutenant Colonel Sims is what we call an AGR. She is full-time active duty under Title 32 status. She is given Tricare. It's paid for as part of her benefits. I am an M-Day part-time traditional Guard soldier in this case. So I have to pay for the Tricare Reserve Select out of pocket. So your traditional citizen soldier that works as a school teacher would have to pay for this. Still a low-cost insurance, but it is out of pocket. So this means would essentially cover that through a stipend on a monthly look, and then reimburse that soldier for the Tricare, the same Tricare that she's getting paid for through the federal government.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Rep. Martin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's the same first and last letter and the same number of letters in the name, so I can understand. Thank you very much for being here. A couple of questions on Tricare. So if they opt into Tricare, whether they're paying for it or the state pays for it, and they have employer coverage, Tricare is always going to be secondary payer, correct?
Yes, sir. So part of our business rules as we establish this, based on, we have to work through income levels, thresholds, and understand back to the visibility of what it is. Soldiers and airmen with sufficient, meaning fully covered, employer-sponsored health care, they would not be eligible in this case. We've tried to scope it into something from a cost standpoint in terms of real need, in terms of uninsured. And these are typically our more junior soldiers and airmen, unemployed, a lot of folks in the northern Lower Peninsula and Upper Peninsula that are seasonal employees. That's the target population.
And that's where I was going. And this would keep them from having to go to the healthcare marketplace to get coverage as an unemployed or whatever. They can actually just supplement this and have this as their healthcare coverage. And when my wife was in the reserves and she went on active duty over to Iraq, I had my gallbladder out and it cost me nothing. I was between my retirement pay and her being on active duty. So I know what the coverage can do. And I just want to make sure that what you're saying about their readiness, so that they're healthy when they come on duty, when the state and the nation calls upon them, they're already got their medical issues taken care of and up to date. I think it'd be a great thing. But you answered the question about if the employer was involved and if they have good insurance, then they have the qualification for that.
Yes, sir. And just to follow up, I think that you bring up a really interesting point. Knowing Michigan and geographic dispersion and some of the folks I'm talking, so they would enter into this program. They would now have full 100% Tricare coverage, Tricare Reserve Select. That minimizes when we levy a requirement on a soldier airman now in a deployed prior to that 6 months where they actually get federal coverage, and we would then turn this off. They have to travel, hours and hours. You're in the Western Upper Peninsula. You may have quite a drive to receive basic dental and medical care consistent with our requirements for deployability on the individual readiness spectrum. So this really eliminates that need. You can use a local doctor. You can stay when you do transition to Tricare as a soon-to-deploy soldier or airman. You can stay with your doctor. We get you through the medical readiness cycle, and you deploy right out the door, and you come back to the same thing. So just from a quality of life standpoint, I think it provides soldiers and airmen with a much better option than we see right now. Thanks, sir, for the question.
Rep. Wagella.
Hi, thank you for coming here today. And first, I'll just say, I fundamentally believe healthcare is a human right that everybody should enjoy. So I appreciate any efforts to try to make it more affordable for people. I was reading and I was seeing that, it's estimated 22% of Michigan National Guard is uninsured. My understanding is that that's like higher than the average throughout the state of Michigan by a significant amount. Do we know why guardsmen or reservists have a harder time affording health care than other Americans? I just noticed that difference, and I was kind of shocked by that.
I'll start this, and I'm going to turn it over to my colleague. It's a great question. Part of it stems, I'll talk root causes, with the preponderance of that 22%. Very young folks who are often in the middle of college, career, what are my choices? That's part of it. Why it's higher, we see a little bit in the rural communities as well. So a little bit with the demographic piece, but I'll turn it over to Colonel Sims, and she can give you more details, sir.
Madam Chair, committee, thank you for the opportunity. To be more specific to that is oftentimes folks that work a part-time job or even a full-time job, and then they do their reservist duty, their income now is greater than what they can qualify for some of the state programs. But it's not quite enough for them to be able to afford care. That's just a real basic thing. They just barely is above the threshold.
Thanks, sir.
Representative Rogers.
Thank you, Chair. I have two questions, one probably for this group and then one for the bill sponsors. First question is, so it sounds like the estimation of what the cost would be per year is $1.6 million. Is that for the member only, or is that for the member and their spouse or family?
Thank you, Representative. So that is for the member only. Right now, the way the bill is written, so the 22%, these are the uninsured only. So understanding that some of the folks have, and this is where we have to get into, the risk management and tracking of family program, spouses, family members with coverage. But the bill as written takes care of those uninsured individual soldier only from the coverage standpoint.
And do you know if there's a cost estimate to add beyond that, the spouse?
For the full spouse, ma'am, I don't have a cost estimate. We can certainly get that and get it back through the committee.
Thank you. And then my other ones for the bill sponsors, are you bringing them back up, or?
Could we get the bill sponsors back up for another question?
My apologies.
Thank you for your testimony today. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So again, I'm supportive of our National Guard, and they do a wonderful job. Thanks for bringing this bill forward. I myself have a number of policy bills that have a price tag attached to them, so I just wondered if you could talk about what conversations you've had in appropriations realm, or where this money would be coming from for the 1.6, because it is ongoing. It's not one time, correct? Thanks.
Yeah, I think as Rep. Snyder mentioned, it's about $1.65 million. I know for us in the Senate, our bill was actually referred to appropriations as part of that process. I know that I've talked with, as I've put my asks forward, that this is one of those that we've asked for consideration. My sense is, as bills like this get discussed, this will be part of all those conversations, but having the conversation now to make sure that everyone understands the importance of this, I think is helpful for us as we move forward. And so, but that's at least on the Senate side, what we've had conversations in regards to.
And just following up on that, I was last week, you know, when the chair came and said that he was going to take up the bill, I've had some of those conversations, I'd say more especially in the last week, because of the urgency of the committee to move the legislation or to have a hearing today. And I appreciate that very much. So I have started having those conversations with our appropriations members and our appropriations chair and our leadership about this moving forward.
Thank you for your testimony, and I do think this is such a priority for the state, our recruiting and retention, that this is a good investment in the future. Thank you for your testimony. I have a couple cards to read in from Heather Furstein with the DMVA, not wishing to speak but in support of the bill. Tim Paxton with the American Legion Department of Michigan, not wishing to speak and in support of the bill. So seeing no further business before the committee and without objection, the committee is adjourned. Thank you very much.